got him.
Easy now. Papa got this, make it happen.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't finished change. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you plenty of
Welcome to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael Sean Dugar. I'm here with my co-host, Christopher Kidd. Make sure you follow us both up on the tweet machine and follow us on YouTube, Seahawks Man to Man YouTube channel. Shout out to everyone who has subscribed on there. Chris, talk to him.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206 and that's CKid206.
All right, we have a special guest joining us to continue our post-NFL draft coverage. You heard from Chris and I as we pretended to know what we were talking about the guys that the Seahawks drafted. Here, now we're going to bring on someone who knows a lot more than we do. We have the homie Sam Gold joining us. What up, Sam? How's it going?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Oh, I can speak for myself. I'm doing okay. Chris, you all right?
Man, the sun's out. It's 60 plus. Things are going much better here, most definitely.
And I think that anyone who was skeptical of the Seahawks regime, of the direction their offseason was going in a post Russell Wilson and Bobby Wagner era, like myself, I feel like now is like a pivot in the right direction, just because of how well the draft went. But that's how I feel. Me and Chris talked about how we feel about the draft. So when you saw the 9 people that the Seahawks drafted last weekend, what was your reaction? How you feel about it?
I was super impressed. I was shocked by how much they did not reach for players and did not take that 4th round talent in the 2nd round or do something ridiculous like that. I was a little bit surprised they didn't take a quarterback or go after one. But I guess this is what we're doing. I think we're embracing the year with Locke and Geno Smith, and maybe we're going all in on a 2023 quarterback. I think it'll be really interesting. And I think the one thing that I kind of wanted them to do was some sort of trade down to get more future assets in order to use those in order to be able to trade up in case they're not, a top 3, top 5 pick. That didn't happen, but I believe John Schneider said that they tried and it kind of fell through for that Charles Cross pick. Regardless, the players they got, I like pretty much every single one of them. There's a lot of talent there. Certain ones I have a little bit higher, certain ones I have a little bit lower. Overall, A+. It was a very solid draft.
A+, that's a high grade. I mean, that's a right where a lot of people are giving them B+, A-, A, like they did. It's the value thing. It's the idea that you didn't take guy graded in the 4th round. Yeah, like you mentioned, super high, 1st round pick or whatever. And the point about the trading down is something I hadn't really even considered even on our last pod. Which is interesting because there were a lot of trades up in that 1st round. Like Detroit moved 20 spots up without giving up a 2023 1st round pick. That is absurd.
It's nuts.
Like to see, I don't remember what Washington got. You're a Washington guy. What did Washington get for moving back from out of 11?
3rd and 4th they got from moving from 11 to 16. And if you look at like the standard trade chart, it adds up. But I figured more teams would be trying to get future picks, but I guess since it was a buyer's market, they probably didn't need to add them.
Yeah, no, that was the interesting part. Like one of the other interesting subplots of like the whole draft was that 1st round where a team like New Orleans moves up, a team like Detroit moves up 20 spots, and no 1st round picks for next year really exchanged, other than the Saints getting into the 1st round ahead of the draft. That was kind of crazy. So you could see why John Schneider was probably on the phone like, you want to give us what now? No, we're going to stay at 9 and take Charles. But real quick, one more kind of broad question on the class. You mentioned what we all can kind of see as the plan right now is roll with either Drew Lock or Geno Smith at quarterback and either use those 2021 or 2023 1st round picks on a rookie next year, either in a trade up or a native pick, or maybe trade for a veteran. Either way, 2022, we got the guys. It's either Drew or it's Geno. How do you feel about that plan, kind of now that we know what the rest of the roster will look like around those 2 quarterbacks?
I mean, knowing the plan just pretty much, I think it makes sense. I think I think logically, I can work through the fact that this quarterback class was bad. I think we all agree it was a pretty bad class. Um, I think it was interesting how far Malik Willis fell. He was the one guy that I thought if there's anybody going to be a first round pick, I thought it was going to be him. So him falling to the third round was very interesting, and not seeing the Seahawks go after him in the second with either pick or even the third again. Um, Knowing the Seahawks are now starting Drew Lock and Geno Smith, I think it's pretty clear that this is going to be a bad season. Uh, I they're going to be a top 10 pick again. I cannot see this team winning enough games to get out of the top 10, especially without Russell Wilson. I just can't see it. So I think we'll be like pick 6 or pick 7, but we'll see.
Oh, pick 6 would be that's rough. That's like a 4-win team, 4 or 5-win team.
It's a bad season, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty rough. That make that Germany game that just got announced really brutal.
Yeah,
losing by like 30 to the Bucks or something like that at 6 a.m. local time.
Yeah, I had a tweet in the draft ready, but I said I'm not going to send this out. I'm not going to have any negative energy. It's all good.
It's realistic energy is what I like to call it, but you're right.
I didn't want to do that. I just said it's too damn early, but I'm going to watch anyway because I got a job to do. But I want to get to the picks, the players that were drafted by the Seahawks. And we'll start off, obviously, with the number 9 overall pick that the Seahawks went with, and that's Charles Cross. On the film that you were able to watch and study, how well do you see Charles fitting in with the Seahawks system, considering Pete has been talking about it for the last 2-3 years? The run game, being physical, controlling the game. How do you see him fitting back when the Seahawks want to get within the roots of the run game?
Yeah, I love the Charles Cross pick. He was the guy that I mocked to them. He was the guy that I wanted them to pick, and he was the guy that they picked. It was like the 3-for in terms of what I actually wanted and hoped to happen. What Charles Cross offers is an incredible athlete in the way he moves, the agility, the footwork, and pretty much everything that you want in terms of a starting left tackle. And what's fascinating is that he is not a power road grading blocker. He's actually pretty much the exact opposite. He's never going to overpower a player. His drive blocks are fine. His normal like one-on-one gap style power stuff, the down blocks are fine. He's never going to kill a person to the ground and and just destroy them that way. He's the guy that's going to get in position, he's going to get his hips around them, and he's going to hold them to the side and allow his running back to squeeze right on by. He's that guy, and he's really, really good at it. And in terms of a run team, I feel like everybody has this belief that you have to have the Ikem Ekwonu approach to it, which is long arms, destroy the guy, and power him outside the sideline or something, which was ridiculous for the record. But in terms of what the Seahawks are trying to do in the zone blocking scheme, this Charles Cross is everything. He fits it perfectly in that respect, and to me it's a solid A grade pick. I loved it.
Now, he was coming from an air raid system where they're just throwing the ball all over the field, and that's something that is one of his strengths. So where do you think he still needs to improve on at the next level, considering he's going to go up against elite pass rushers all across the league?
Yeah, I think from my standpoint, in terms of pass blocking, I think he does most things right. How he glides into his sets, how he uses his hands typically are fine. His anchor is actually surprisingly good. I think on the few times where he did get beat on a stunt or didn't pass them off correctly, he made up for it later on. So I saw improvement on a game-by-game basis in that respect. I think the one area that Charles Cross needs to improve on, and this is going to be difficult, it's winning, it's redirecting on inside moves. So if a pass rusher steps outside with his first 2-3 steps and then cuts inside with kind of, like a swipe or like a rip move back inside or, anything like that, Charles Cross had a very hard time shifting back and going back the other direction after he moved out to his left. And so what would happen is that he would get beat inside after he was set up outside. If I was a pass rusher, that's my number one move I'm going to hit him with. I'm going to hit him with that until he fixes it, and then I'm going to start working back outside. And I'm also going to try to set him up outside to work back inside. And I think we'll see some interesting breakdowns between Damian Lewis at the left guard spot and Charles Cross at the left tackle spot, I think we're going to see some interesting kind of who's responsible for this guy. We're gonna have some rookie mistakes early on in that regard. But overall, I mean, I think he's like a 9 out of 10 pass blocker, so I'm 100% okay with it.
That's great news.
Well, no, and I was thinking about this, like, for as you go from as bad as like the Seahawks have been, like the O-line just as a whole, you get Russell Okung, and then you have what, like 2 years where you don't have him? Maybe just 2016 you have George Fant, and then I think 2017 you got the Reese Odiombo thing, and then you get Dwayne Brown midway through the year. And then you go from Dwayne Brown to Charles Cross. Like, they've been bad at O-line in general, but like this is not like a bad little run of left tackle play. You know, like aside from the George Fant year and the half of the year with Reese Odiombo with 2 broken hands and 17, that's legit. He had 2 broken hands at the same goddamn time, according to Pete Carroll. Like, according to that, like year and a half, after that year and a half stretch there, you got like a decade, maybe another decade plus of just like, if nothing else, competent left tackle play, which is like really what you want to see from a competent organization. And I was actually going to ask about, you know, what pass rush stuff trips up maybe rookies the most. And then, but that's before you had mentioned like Charles in particular get beat on inside stuff. Is getting beat on that inside stuff that Charles is not so good at? Is that just like a Charles thing? Or do you see that with like rookies when they get into the league, that, you know, guys cutting across their face and beating them that way?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think getting beat inside happens to a lot of players, especially when they have kind of below average redirect in that level. What's going to be interesting to me is how much he improves at it. For me, it might just be an innate thing that he might just be a little bit bad at that. It may be his ceiling in regard to winning on those inside moves isn't as high as what he can do on the outside stuff. Winning against a speed rusher and being able to, you know, opens his hips to turn and be able to run the arc around that, and be able to move them outside. He's excellent at that. And I think his ceiling's an A+ guy to take on speed rushers from the outside. The question I have is more on what is the upside for that inside move. To answer your question on more rookie stuff, I think it's usually stunts in games. I think that's usually the thing. And then probably lunging. I see a lot of lungers. You see a lot of guys that will try to attack and try to where they get kind of afraid of that pass rusher in space, so they lunge at them, and that's when they get beat. And Cross is patient, so that's like he won't get beat very often on lunging. I think it's just those inside moves. Honestly, I think that's going to kill him.
Yeah, no, that's just to hear that. That's like, all right, that's the thing. That's the one thing. I mean, that's it, though.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. And this guy's 21 years old, by the way. This is a young.
Keep getting better.
Rookie. Yeah, he doesn't turn 22, I think, until November too. So he's going to spend most of his rookie year as a young pup. Like that. That's really encouraging. Did you get a chance to watch the Bama game of Charles Cross?
Not after what Pete Carroll said about how that was like his best game or whatever. I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, no, it was. I went and watched some of it. And just the athleticism, like you don't think of like guys that big being athletic. Although watching Dwayne Brown, I certainly understand. Yeah. Like it was just kind of crazy to see like him out in space against Bama guys, like the best of the best. What's the kid's name from Bama? That's like should be like a top 5 pick next year. Will Anderson. Yeah, it was like I had a hard time even figuring out which guy that was. I wanted to see him go against Charles. I don't even know if he did. He may have done like 1 rep against that kid. Like it's really special. You know how good Charles was in college, how he's expected to be instantly in the pros. Like that has me believing in Pete and John all over again. Just that pick.
You got to believe somewhere. You mentioned the A+ grade, and they didn't draft just offensive tackle. They didn't draft just wide receivers. They also got some defensive players, and they got a linebacker in Boye Mafe. He ran a 4.53 in the 40, and he looks to be that build of an outside linebacker that can play linebacker and also rush the passer. And the Seahawks are looking to go to that 3-4 front, which would probably have Mafe doing something similar to what he did in college. How do you see that fit for Mafe with the Seahawks?
Yeah, in terms of pure fit, I think it makes sense. I think in terms of like a scheme fit and how they'll use him, I think what he offers is very good in that respect. Like I can see why if they had him, you know, like talent and schemes on one side, how it kind of checks the boxes for that level. I get it. Let's see. I just spent probably the last hour and a half watching him. And so I think my number one takeaway I had was, and this is the negative, false steps. The number of false steps he takes to start a pass rush, it killed me. Basically, you'll see him start with in a 2-point stance, square up. He'll then take a one step backwards, and then he'll use that to propel forward. So instead of just stepping forward, he goes half step back, then forward. The thing is that as soon as he starts moving, damn, he's fast. Like that dude can move and is really impressive. But the fact that he adds that little extra half or false step, you can tell he gets about a half of a second behind the rest of the pass rushers on the offensive line. Go watch through his games in Ohio State. Man, I never want to watch that game for the rest of my life. That was don't watch that game. You'll see 4 guys on the line of scrimmage. You'll see 3 guys already past the line of scrimmage, and Boye Mafe is a half a step back and then going forward, and then he catches up. It was like every single play, and I was like, you'd be so much better if you just didn't do this. And so if he can fix that, which I think he can, and for me, I think a lot of it comes down to how he reads run versus pass. I think he's hesitant. I think he sees play action. I think he sees run responsibilities, and he gets too much in his head where he overthinks it. He'll start being like, oh, there's a potential handoff. There's a zone read option here. What do I do? What do I do? There's a blocker coming at me. And then the quarterback will have already had the ball for a full second. And then he's like, now I go. And by that point, it's too late. Consistent problems against play action. Consistent problems against zone read options. It was one of those things where, in my opinion, you get him into an obvious pass rush situation where he doesn't have to think about those things. He's going to be great. So in my opinion, he's a 3rd down specialist at this point in his career, which I think that fits the Seahawks because they have Darryl Taylor and they signed the guy from the Chargers. Was it Owasu?
Yeah. Yep. Uchenna and Owasu. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it'll be all right. I think as kind of that rotational 3rd down specialist to start his career as he gets better at kind of getting quicker at identifying run versus pass, I think he can keep improving. So that is where I see him as as kind of a potential in this scheme, at least to start his rookie year. I don't think he's going to be the Chase Young where he gets 8 to 10 sacks. I think he's going to have some cleanup plays. I think he'll probably end up with 4 to 5 sacks, something like that. But I don't see him as like a crazy impactful player year one, unless they allow him just to slowly rush the passer.
Yeah, and I could see that. And that was really, for me, all the 2nd round guys. If they took an edge rusher, whether it was the kid from Penn State, whether it was the kid from Oklahoma, who I liked,
Benito,
kid from South Carolina, who I think might have went undrafted. The Kingsley kid.
I think he went like the 5th round. Is like
5th round.
Kingsley something. Yeah.
All of those guys, when I was projecting them, I was like, even the kid from Michigan, if they'd have took him, that I think blew his Achilles.
Ajabo. Yeah.
I
wanted a Ajabo.
Yeah, I just thought they couldn't afford the luxury of waiting. Like, I think who took him? The Chiefs? I think the Chiefs took him. Somebody.
No, I thought it was the Ravens. I thought it was
I was going to say the Chiefs or the Ravens. A team that
second was great value.
Yeah, and I think that it was just a team that could afford to, So I think that whereas the Seahawks kind of needed that help right away, but I feel like the guys they got, like if they took like Thibodeau at 9, like okay, cool, he might just unseat Darryl or Uchenna right away. But even if you take like a Boye or a Kingsley or an Arnold from Penn State, like
you're
a 3rd down guy is fine. It's fine because like Chris
has a role.
Uchenna is 25. Darryl is 25.
Yeah,
like these ain't
Uchenna's
old
25.
Yeah, he's a young guy.
I think he was like he might have been like Rasheem Green where he got drafted at like 20 or 21.
Okay.
It might be like that because Rasheem Green's only 25. Like Rasheem Green doesn't even turn 25 until after this show comes out.
How old's Boye?
That's a good question. I think Boye actually might be around that age already. Like I think
he's kind of old, right?
Yeah, I think he was an older prospect.
I think he's 23 or 24.
He's 23 and he turns 24 at the end of November.
I think he got the same birthday as Russ.
He's old in NFL terms.
So
he's
like
an old guy.
But like I think
Seasoned.
They're well said.
that
Sam.
is
Seasoned.
that is. But I like the I did like the pick, and I think the third down role is going to be really important. I think it's really hard to play early downs in the NFL because you do have to defend the run.
Right. And that's the thing is that as like a pure run defender, he showed a little bit of upside in terms of like taking on tight ends and stuff like that. I thought his anchor was just okay. And that's it's weird to say that because every single report I read was saying that like coaches like gushed over his strength and his like athleticism and all these other things. And like maybe I misread that, but his anchor was just okay, and maybe just needs to create better leverage or use his hips better in order to kind of pop. His hand usage was there wasn't a ton of pop in his hands, and I think you can keep getting better at that. Yeah, I mean he's a solid player. I had him more as like a late second, early third round grade, so I'm fine with it. Like it wasn't my favorite pick, but obviously because I thought Akibe or Ekabite or how do you? Or
I don't know how to say it. You see, I keep saying the kid from Penn State, right? Yeah, I ain't trying to butcher the last name.
Arnold.
Yep, his first name Arnold. I know that. I get that.
Like I had him higher, so like I probably would have taken him, but I don't blame him. I mean, he fits the scheme. He does what they want to do.
I think the Seahawks probably agree with that. I think I gotta go look at how the draft played out. I'm pretty sure. I think Atlanta probably traded up and took that kid from Penn State.
I think you're right.
Just to get ahead of the Seahawks.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure. And I think the Bears with the next pick took Kyler Gordon from Washington. And I bet you the Seahawks were just like John sitting there like, holy hell, guys! Like, like
taking the guys that
somebody John looking around to the scouts like, all right, who leaked our board to the Falcons? Come on, who was it?
You're fired.
Who said something? Who leaked our board to Chicago? What's going on here? But I think Boye is a good. I don't want to say consolation. I think he's going to be a good situational player early on. One last thing on him, if there was a trait that you loved or that really stands out with him, what is it? Bend, twitch, speed to power, just an array of moves. What does he bring?
His all right, it's his stab to swipe and rip outside. And so imagine it this way. Imagine he doesn't do that false step thing we already talked about, and he just blasts up the field in 2 steps, which he did that against Washington, Nebraska. That's more fun. That game's a lot more fun. He does 2 to 3 steps. He gets his inside arm on that shoulder plate. He then takes his inside hand, his other hand swipes down, and then he moves his hips through. Then he gets his hips around, and he was able to create some pressures. That stab to kind of swipe and rip move, that's going to be fun. It was very dangerous with that when he did not false step and he just knew he could just do it. So I think that's where you see the potential. And that's where I think in terms of like an upside play, I get it. We just got to get rid of the little minor stuff and get rid of the false steps and we're good.
How easy or how challenging is it to get rid of that false step? Because we had on offensive lineman, what's his name? Ray Roberts, about 2.5 weeks ago. And he talked about that with offensive linemen, how they sometimes have a false step, and they, instead of backing up, they make a side step to the right or left, and that gives the defender. They
square up and then open up. Yeah,
exactly. So how is that a challenge to eliminate that false step in your game and always explode forward?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I can't really answer that. I'm optimistic, but I'm really hoping it stems from run versus pass IDing. Yeah, okay. I'm really hoping that's the case. If it doesn't, I have no idea how you fix it. And that's I'm gonna let the professionals figure that out.
You're a professional. It's okay.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. It's like this is one of those times where it really helps that your defensive coordinator is a former D lineman.
Yeah.
Like it's useful for certain positions. Like if your coach is a former like DB and you take a DB that needs some polish, like it helps. Like it'll help way that the guy getting his hands on him early, teaching him the scheme is going to be a guy who knows pass rush as well as probably anybody in the league. Like Clint knows his stuff. Let's go to the next pick that they took, Kenneth Walker III, out of Michigan State with the 41st overall pick. Before we get to the player, Kenneth the player, Sam, where are you at on this? You got to pick a side on the Seahawks Twitter civil war here. It's basically the nerds versus people who like Kenneth's highlights, pretty much. I'm kind of in the middle, but I'd lean more toward nerdiness, I guess. Where are you at on people? There's the one side that is Seahawks, how dare you take a running back at 41? You guys not understand positional value? You idiots. And then there's like, I hear you, but I Googled Kenneth Walker highlights, and that dude is electric. So I don't care. His highlights
Wait, Chris, where are you on this? Where do you land on the spectrum?
It's funny you mentioned that because Mike and I we have a radio show now, and we talked about it on air. And I was hedging my bets. I couldn't give Mike, yes, Mike, you're 100% right, or no, Mike, you're 100% wrong. It was more so, Mike, I understand where you're coming from, but what if the Seahawks saw a scenario where if we don't get this guy, I really don't like any other running back that we could potentially get. So why would I let him go, Kenneth Walker, that is, the third, and then try to get some other position of value of need, for example, center, right? There was, who was was it Tyler?
There's a couple guys that was on the board. Cam Jurgens was on the board at the
That
time.
was one of them. And Tyler, I believe, was another one.
I don't remember it. No, not the Iowa kid. Baltimore took him.
He went 27 or something or 24.
Okay, so we'll go with Mike's first player. That's where I was kind of torn because I thought the process of, okay, we're not going to let this guy go because the highlights are nasty. And the value, sure.
Highlights are nasty.
They are. The Seahawks still need a center. Right now, they got the gentleman from the Chiefs that was banged up, Austin Blythe. He's been banged up. I don't know how good or how bad he is. The Seahawks seem to think he's really good, taking a risk on him, considering he was out last season. So with that knowledge, I think the Seahawks were saying, we like what we have in Austin. Now, that could be tongue-in-cheek because how many times have they liked the guy out of the offensive line? He's been horrid. All right. We've seen years and years of the Seahawks. Oh, we like this guy. We're going to, he's going to be Britt, for example. He never really became that guy.
But where are you at, though, on the pick? Not what they were thinking, though. He said, where are you at?
I'm getting to that.
A through F.
Yeah, come on. Hey, thank you, Sam. Come on. Where are you at on the pick?
Mike, what do you got with that A through F?
I liked it.
Oh, I want Chris to give his.
I liked it.
What's your grade?
I liked it. I thought it was okay.
Give the grade. Come on.
Oh, a B.
Okay, there you go. That's not bad.
I just want to get some context behind it. That's
no.
Mike's like, screw all that.
And you're a homer.
Well, I think we all know where the Seahawks were thinking. Thinking this guy looks great. We should take him. Value be damned. I just think that you just have to be careful doing that. I'm probably at like a C on it to give it a grade.
I thought you weren't even giving it a passing grade. I guess
no, because Kenneth is nasty. Like I said this on
Kenneth's really good.
We recapped the show. We recapped the draft on Sunday. We did a show, put it out Monday. Like I remember Kenneth. I don't even watch college football, and I remember like watching the Michigan game, thinking, did this kid just have 5 touchdowns and run through like a good?
His Michigan game was like disgusting. Like I it was a pure highlight reel in one game.
It was absurd. Like that put. I was like, oh, if the Seahawks get that guy. Like I joked with Evan. Can't remember Evan's last name right now.
Hill.
Yeah, Evan Hill. I joked with him like a month before on Twitter, like, oh, the Seahawks
he freaked out.
and I get the freak out because like for example, my homie just texted me today. He was like, he's a Patriots fan, but he was like, I was going through drafts. Shout out to my homie Kurt. He was like, I was going through some drafts lately. He's like, what's crazy? The Giants took Saquon, number 2 overall.
Yeah, they did.
And it's a lot of the same logic that Seahawks fans are using now. The player is so fun, I don't care about the positional value, which like is different, obviously, at pick 41 versus pick 2. But see how the logic can be dangerous, like that you like a guy so much that you ignore positional value. That's how you end up taking a Leonard Fournette at 4 or whatever, even a Christian McCaffrey at 8 or 9. Like you can't fall in love with a guy too much, But that said, I like Kenneth. So Sam, actually, Sam, where are you at? Did you tell us where you're at on this?
No,
I gave my official grade of a C as well, actually. Okay. Right. And people were not happy with that grade. Because obviously the people who agree with it are like, yeah, okay. And then people are angry or like all up in your comments and all up in your DMs and stuff, and that's always fun. So here's my thing, and I'm gonna kind of echo what you guys said, with a lot of you guys said, and for me it comes down to positional value and who else was on the board. For me, Andrew Booth was sitting there. He was a late first, early second round grade.
Clemson, right?
They needed a cornerback, from Clemson. He fits the scheme. I didn't get it. I'm guessing he fell because of injuries. I'm guessing because he fell because of more of a medical reason. Mainly because it seemed like he was always dinged up in college. And he even commented recently, which is kind of concerning, that he was like, this is the healthiest I've been since high school or something. Oh, and I was like, that's, you don't say that day one. That's like the tweet we save for being like, this is why you don't take him. Like, you don't say that. But he was actually the guy that I wanted them to take. Because cornerback was a need. It was a high position of value. He would have been a steal or whatever you want to call it, where he was better, higher big draft board versus where he would have gone. That would have checked all my boxes and been a solid A grade pick. And so in terms of more of the process of taking a running back. First off, I get the counter argument of saying all we have left on the roster next year is DJ Dallas. That basically we have a need in that respect if Rashad Penny does not get re-signed. But that's next year. That's for me, a running back, you do not need him to develop. He's a plug and play player. I don't even, in my boards, the way I do calculations for running backs, I don't even have an upside column because it's for me, it's either you have it or you don't. And and for me, it's you're either gonna plug and play in the system or you don't. And it's like the one position I have in my entire like spreadsheet or rubric where I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's gonna be like the same dude he is in 3 years as he is now, except for more wear and tear. And so the way I kind of view this is that purely from a talent perspective, he's a second round grade. He is a very, very good player. He has incredible balance. He has good quickness. He has a little bit of power, but he's more of that elusive, slippery guy in space. His fit in a zone running scheme, the same one that Seattle will run, it's perfect. He will be a perfect fit in this scheme. And the thing is that his vision is probably the best in the class. It's overall, as a pure runner, I'm not even sure I gave a negative in terms of his running talent when I made my video on him. I don't even remember my negative on him, to be honest with you, when it comes to his running ability. He's that good. As a pass catcher and in the passing game, his pass protection is horrible. It's god-awful. I would never use him in pass protection until he fixes that up. It almost seemed like he just didn't care about it. I watched him just watch a pass rusher go by and allow him to hit the quarterback. There were plays, and I think that was against Michigan too. Like he was just like, nah, I got 5 touchdowns. I don't need to do this. Like it was him as a pass catcher. He showed the upside, albeit with a limited route tree. He was basically sitting in the flat. He was basically sitting out there as kind of an outlet, but he didn't really do much else. And you can't really knock a player for that because like that's Michigan State. Like if you're another team, Texas A&M with Spiller or Breece Hall with Iowa State, for example, they use them on pivots. They use them on wheel routes, those two running backs. They use them on a variety of positions and routes to utilize their full skill set. Michigan State just said, nah, you're a good running back. We're going to use you as a good runner. That's it. And so I don't want to say that bothers me, but it's like if I'm a coach and I have this dude that can be a good pass catcher, why wouldn't I just also split him outside or put him in the slot, do something else with him beyond just screens and kind of that little flat check down? And maybe that's just like me, like overthinking things or something like that. But like as a pure runner, like it's A+. Like the dude is fantastic. And so the reason why I gave him a C value, even though he fits the board in terms of like his grade, in terms of like where he can potentially be, it just comes down to there are much bigger needs in terms of what I would have done with that pick. This team is awful. Like it's not like we don't need to sugarcoat this. We're not as bad as the Jets, but we're relatively
The Jets who had a
bad.
good draft, by the way. I think the Jets had a good draft for what it's worth.
Jets had a really good draft, but they also had like 4 top 40 picks or something.
Right. They should have had a good draft. Yeah.
They did a good job with those picks, minus Breece Hall. Overall, like even though I like Hall, I didn't think that was a good pick. But anyways, the team has enough needs and needs enough talent elsewhere that this is a luxury. If they really love a running back next year and they don't have one on the roster, like Rashad Penny's, he's gone, he's doing something else, and they still just have DJ Dallas, I would be more okay with a second or late second or third round type running back next year when they don't already have a Rashad Penny on the roster. For me, running backs are just as simple as, can he run? Does he fit the scheme? Let's throw him in. I think we're at that point where I just don't see. I don't even, he has to be freaking elite in order to make up for the difference in wins above replacement, in order to make up for like a defensive player or an offensive lineman or something like that. And that's what kind of bothers me. But I get it if you're the Seahawks and how much they love running the ball. Like it's not lost on me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that on top of that, beyond the fact that none of those running backs are under contract next year, beyond DJ, it's just like none of the running backs really stay healthy
They can't.
either.
Yeah.
That would probably be in Seattle's calculus there. Like Chris Carson, we don't know what's going on with his neck. You don't know whether he'll be able to play in training camp or whatever. Rashad is healthy currently, but we know that doesn't like stay
Yeah, that doesn't last.
consistent, throughout the course of a season. Travis Homer, as much as he's even just a third down back, he gets hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Like, which is kind of crazy. I was thinking about that the other day when I saw a picture of him. So that was probably in their calculus too. Like, I know what they were thinking. I also think, though, to be fair to you, Sam, you are not alone in that thinking of like how plug and play running backs can be. Pete Carroll damn near said the same thing after the draft. I think it was Maz Vida. Shout out to the homie Maz. After the draft, asked Pete. He asked him to contrast the readiness between quarterbacks and running backs coming into the draft, which is clearly a huge gap. But Pete, in his answer, Pete was basically like, "Yeah, like with running backs, we expect to just hand them the ball and they know where to go."
They've been running the same play. They've been running the same play for 7 years. All of high school, all of college, and now the NFL. It's the same play.
Yeah,
same read, same everything.
There's some power. There's some counter. There's some
zone.
Some zones. There's some.
It's just getting used to speed and like using your skill set. So I think the counter that people have said, well, you can't like which running back are you going to take instead? I feel like that's always like the counter is like like where someone says you can always find running backs later. Then it's like, all right, why don't you just pick a running back right now? With their 2 4th-round picks, and I like Kobe Bryant. With their 4th-round picks, take 2 running backs. I would be cool with a 4th and a 6th-round running back. Like that wouldn't bother me. To me, that would be filling the team with depth. You're preventing yourself from putting too much assets in one player or one position, especially at the running back position. You got a Dameon Pierce, who I love.
Oh, I liked him too.
Or you could have gotten Brian Robinson went in the 3rd round. A Dameon Pierce who went in the 4th. And you could grab someone way later in the 6th. And if you read the scouting reports, people are pretty obvious about whether or not they fit a zone blocking scheme. They'll just literally say only fits zone blocking scheme. That's it. Just grab that guy. Just like grab that one dude. It's like, got him. He's mine.
Yeah, I like the kid from BYU too. I think he went to Atlanta in the 5th. Yeah, I think
they have the same scheme. Just take him.
I think
take him in the late 4th.
Shoot, Atlanta liked him so much they cut the homie Mike Davis right away.
Yeah,
like that's they cut Mike before Tyler. I think is the running back's name. They cut Mike before Tyler showed up to rookie camp. That's a 5th-round pick. Now that they probably have other reasons, I don't know. They saved like $2 million, which ain't a lot, but like that just goes to show you how plug and play running backs are. Like you don't even got to take
grab a couple rookies. I don't care.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm glad within that though. We also talked about what Kenneth can do, what he wasn't able to do, because I think we all agree though. You spend 5 minutes watching this kid on YouTube, you're like, oh, I see why this is the greatest running back ever. Like,
it wouldn't shock me if he ends up being like a top 5 running back next, like not this year because there's Rashad Penny obviously, but the following year in terms of like yards and those kind of metrics. It wouldn't shock me. I mean, the dude's good. It's just how much better is he relative to what you could have got later on, and how you can allocate that capital better.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think we had to do at the Athletic, all 32 writers had to say like who's going to be the most impactful rookie in the class, and I like wanted to pick Charles, and I was just like, you know what? It might be Kenneth Walker III. Like, if he leads the Seahawks in rushing this year, I wouldn't be surprised. If he's like in the running for offensive rookie of the year, I would not be surprised. Like, he could just put up numbers. I could see him easily putting up numbers in this system. I know some of those receivers are could put up some numbers too, but like, it would really surprise me if he went for like 1,200 yards or something like that. Because we've been seeing rookies do it. It seems like every year, whether it's an Aaron Jones from the 5th round or a Phillip Lindsay undrafted making the Pro Bowl, or Chris Carson or whatever, even a Alvin Kamara picked in the 3rd round, Kareem Hunt in the 3rd round. There's just so many guys. So it will be fun though to compare Kenneth to some of those guys who were taken later. The kid from Brian Robinson from Bama, the kid from BYU, even Abram Smith from Baylor, who I liked, who went undrafted. We'll see. It'll be fun to monitor, just like we're monitoring the running back, or excuse me, the linebacker that the Ravens took right after Jordan Brooks. Can't remember his name right now. Patrick something. Patrick Queen. Like every once in a while there's a draft. Like, all right, we're gonna watch these 2 guys. Like RG3, Andrew Luck. Like, let's watch their careers. Like, as they go 1-2, Carson Wentz, Jared Goff. Like, it'll be Kenneth and all the other running backs for the Seahawks. Let's go to the homer pick for Chris and I as Washington State grads.
Oh, cool.
They go grab our boy Abe Lucas in the 3rd round with pick 72. Pick I loved, pick I mocked with that exact spot. He's very similar as Charles, air raid system, considered to be way too athletic for us to even worry about him run blocking because he's just, that much of an athlete that he should be able to pick it up. That's at least what Pete Carroll said. That's what Mason Miller, his O-line coach in Washington State, said. Talked to Mason. He also coached cross at Mississippi State because Mike Leach coached at both schools. So when you watch Abe, do you see that same thing? Like a guy that's so athletic, we don't have to worry about whether he can learn to block in a 3-point stance in the pros?
So I'm going to say it this way. Yes and no. The yes side of me wants to be happier about that pick. It wants to be happier about the fact that they spent capital on a right tackle in the 3rd round when they also just spent capital on a left tackle in the 1st round. I want to be a lot happier about the pick. But with that being said, I think he has the athleticism to play in this scheme. I think he has solid length and solid quickness to do a lot of the blocks and what they're offering. And obviously, he's going to have to learn a lot in terms of it's an air raid system similar as what we said to Charles Cross, where it's just not as big of a run blocking scheme as opposed to kind of like your base zone blocks typically. The thing that worries me, he gets way too out leveraged whenever he starts kick sliding backwards. So instead of staying smooth and staying balanced, like you see Charles Cross, who just does it beautifully. He's like the best kick slider like I've seen in a long time. It's great. Abe Lucas is like the opposite. This dude gets too tall. He's on his toes. If I am rushing him and I'm going to pick Aiden Hutchinson, I'm going to pick George Karlaftis, I'm going to pick who's the guy from Las Vegas? Max Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
Speed to power. He will get destroyed. Because what's going to happen is he's going to open his hips. He's going to kind of step backwards, kind of be too much weight forward. He's going to be too tall. He's going to get so out leveraged. He's going to get knocked out of the way. Going against speed to power on the edge will be his downfall. He can learn, but a lot of that comes down to footwork, your balance, and your base immediately after the snap. And this is something he's going to have to pretty much redevelop from the start. And so what bothers me is that while the 3rd round is roughly where the big board kind of had him, the guys I trust, kind of like Brandon Thorne, for example, and like these guys that really understand offensive line play, they had him a lot lower than the 3rd round. They had him in the 4th or 5th round. And the reason is because he has to basically redevelop his footwork and his base in order to kind of restart for his learnings on the right side. Now, with that being said, though, he has the quickness, he has the athleticism, he has the length, and he has the overall skill set that you look for a right tackle in a zone blocking scheme. That gives me the upside and the promise of saying, hey, at least they spent a pick on the offensive line, and I'm happy they did that, and I'm more than happy to give that a B or B plus type grade because they at least addressed the position, albeit it may not have been the guy I wanted. The guy I wanted went, let's see, where is he? I'm trying to look on the...
It's a kid from Minnesota?
The LSU guy. Or not some LSU. Where is he?
Oh, the Louisiana guy?
I think it was Tulsa. Not Tulsa.
Yeah, kid from Tulsa went in the 1st round to the Cowboys.
Yeah, it's like, dude. Oh, here it is. Ohio State. Nicholas.
Oh, yeah.
Freer?
I don't know how to say it. Yep, we know who you're talking about, though. Yeah, kid from Ohio State.
Yeah. Dude, he went to the Tennessee Titans in the 3rd round. And granted, he went 3 picks before Abe Lucas, but I think this comes down to the fact that you didn't have to take Kenneth Walker, did you?
Oh,
so I don't know. It's again, I'm fine with the pick. I also would have been fine with Bernard Raymond. I thought that Central Michigan offensive tackle, I thought he fell a lot more than he should have, even though he is kind of older. Again, I'm not like unhappy about the pick, but I'm going to temper my expectations considering that they still have Stone still on the roster. And I'm really hoping he's just going to win the job outright.
Speaking of winning the job, based on what you've seen film-wise and given the opportunity to compete, as Pete will probably have him do, could he beat out Jake Curran for that starting job this summer, you think?
It's a good question. I'm hoping so. I think we're gonna have an interesting camp battle because with Charles Cross taking that left tackle spot, I hope we have a three-way competition between Curran and Stone and Lucas, and whoever plays the best is in, and they can actually get really good reps throughout preseason. I think that right tackle spot during preseason is going to be so much fun to watch. And I say that as like a degenerate watching preseason clips and against a backup edge rusher to see how they do. So I'm optimistic, but part of me thinks no.
All right.
No, I mean it's hard. It's hard to play right tackle.
It's hard.
In the NFL, just jumping right in. And also, I think that we got to remember, like some of these guys, they do have the height, the athleticism, some of the production, but it's like they're in the back of the draft for a reason, not the back of the draft, but like if Abe's kick sliding was a lot smoother, he would have been in the first round.
Yeah, he has the upside that he'd probably be like a second round pick or even like a late first if he consistently showed better footwork and kind of ability to take on kind of like ability to kind of transition with his steps like that. I think he would have been a lot higher if he could do that. Our worry is that if he can never really consistently learn to kind of do that, right?
Okay.
Yeah, this will be. I noted this after the draft. Like Andy Dickerson, first time offensive line coach for the Seahawks, used to be the run game coordinator in LA and was the run game coordinator last year for the Seahawks. Like this is going to be a challenge for him. Like he's going to have to all right, coach these dudes. These guys have clear flaws like in their game. Get them right in your first time doing this.
That's why I'm optimistic, because Andy Dickerson just knows the scheme so well, and I think I think we have a good combination with him and Shane Waldron in terms of kind of how they're picking players that fit the scheme, and they're embracing that. Whereas I feel like in the past we've kind of had this shotgun inside zone mixing in with a little bit of gap and power type system, whereas now it's as pure wide zone as you possibly can get. And I think with that in mind, it's easier to find the profiles that fit your system because you have a defined profile. It's not like, oh, these two kids could both fit it, but they have completely different skill sets, but they both fit the scheme. So we have to debate which skill sets are more important. For me, it's more like we now have the scheme, and do you fit the scheme? Then where on the list are you for like talent? It feels like an easier checklist, but maybe I'm biased because I just do like the wide zone scheme a lot better. So
nothing wrong with that.
All right, so Sam, we'll get you out of here on this. We didn't get a chance to talk about. I think the top 4 picks are the ones who have the chance to be most impactful. I think we can all kind of agree, barring some injuries at some other spots. But obviously, they took Kobe Bryant with pick 109, guy I liked out of Cincinnati. They took Tariq Woolen from UTSA, another guy I liked, freak athlete, 6'4", 34-inch arms, ran 4.26. Like you got to take him.
That dude's ridiculous.
Yeah, just take him in the 5th and just.
It's a YOLO pick.
They also took Bo Melton, receiver out of Rutgers. I
thought he fell. Like I thought he fell a little too far, and I was happy they took him.
Yeah, Derek Young out of Lenore Ryan. Took him in the 7th, and then I'm missing one. Tyreek Smith, the edge rusher at Ohio State. Like considering those 5 guys, with the 4 that we talked about in more depth, take those 9. Let's ignore the UDFAs just for the moment since they're not official yet. Take those 9, take the guys who are already on the roster, take the free agent additions of Uchenna and Artie Burns, and bring it back Justin Coleman and Quentin Jefferson and Shelby Harris, Noah Fant, Drew Lock, re-signing Geno. Take all that. Take all the moves that they've made in the post Russell Wilson, Bobby Wagner era. Where are you at now with the 2022 Seahawks? Like how more or less confident are you now that you've kind of seen their offseason in totality?
Yeah, really good question. I guess going back to kind of some of the draft picks, Kobe Bryant, I think he's going to play a lot more snaps than we think right now. I think he fits the scheme perfectly. He's a really good man press cornerback, and he has really good instincts. I think he's going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think he fell a full round further down than he should have.
Right.
He's for me, that was an A+ pick for the record. He's very competitive, solid ball skills. I think that with Sauce Gardner there, like everyone saw Sauce and they didn't see Kobe, who is like obviously not as good, but he still has a lot of talent. I think it was a great 1-2 punch that they had. Overall, if you're going to look at this team and compare it to last year, I think I would probably compare it to the team that was when Geno Smith was on the field, and we can kind of ignore the Russell Wilson bad games or whenever he was on the field. I think they are significantly improved from that roster. I think they fixed a lot of holes. I think they have a lot more talent overall on the team. I guess obviously the issue is how much is losing your franchise quarterback.
Yeah, there's a big caveat there, Sam.
That's the big caveat is that compared to those Geno Smith games that we watched, we're a lot better. Compared to the good Russell Wilson games we watched in the beginning of the year, we're a lot worse. So I think there's things to be optimistic about. I'll say that, and I'm going to be hopefully focusing on those.
Yeah, no, I think in totality there is like an optimistic view of the team. Like the running backs, if healthy, should be good. Even if it's just Kenneth and Rashad, should be fine. There's reasons to like what they're doing up front. You know, independent of the center spot. You know, the reason the receivers are obviously fine. 2 tight ends should be decent. You know, honestly, if their cornerback room, the week 1 is. Or let's say this is their starting DBs week 1. It's Trey Brown, it says Trey Brown, Kobe Bryant, Quandre Diggs, Justin Coleman, and Jamal Adams. Like, Justin Coleman back in the slot where he was one of the best slot corners in the league in 2018. Like, and then we still know about Cody, but you got Jordan Brooks, Darrell Taylor, Big Al, Puna, throw Shelby Harris in there, Uchenna. Like, there's some pieces there. The big question mark, boy, is who's going to be throwing everybody the ball.
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's the tough one. But we're going to have some more time to talk about that later in the offseason, maybe during the season, Sam, because you know you're going to be back on. You know,
appreciate it.
I mean, we might need to have you on after the preseason to say we might do a whole episode where we decide who should be the starter. Oh, that could be a fun one.
That would be great
because me and Chris have a wager.
Starting quarterback or starting
starting quarterback. Yeah, quarterback.
Right tackle is gonna be more fun.
Chris has $100 on Drew. I got $100 on Geno, just between each other, not with like FanDuel or anything. So we might need an independent viewer.
Interesting question. That's actually should I make my pick preseason or is it after the pre? I guess we'll know by the end of preseason.
Yeah. Well, no. We might bring. Yeah, we'll bring. We might be able to bring you on. Maybe we could do a whole panel where people give their opinion. You know, before Pete makes it official. That'd be the tentative plan to have that. You know, get the suspense going. Let's get some reps, watch some preseason games because that should be an interesting battle. I won't use the word fun. I can't use it. I got different definitions of fun.
And are we saying starting as in they take the opening day snap?
Yep. Week 1.
What happens if they get benched by like week 2?
That's fine.
That's fine. You still win. In terms of our bet, that's fine. They have to win week 1, the week 1 job.
What happens if there's an injury and one dude just replaces the other when he gets healthy?
We'll cancel.
It's off. Yeah. This is why we did it with ourselves and not like FanDuel or DraftKings. They wouldn't account for that shit. They just take our money.
Yeah, they're just taking money.
I'm not doing that. But, you know, ladies and gentlemen, that is Sam Gold, man. Just film guru, expert. Just love the insight, man. Love the work you do. Sam, shout out your Twitter and your YouTube channel that I'm subscribed to. I love it. So shout all that out so people can check out your work.
Yeah, it's Twitter is at Samuel R. Gold and YouTube is just Samuel Gold NFL or Sam's Film Room.
Yeah, man, it's great stuff. Can't recommend it enough. Really good content, really good insight. I learn something new every video.
Yeah,
I'll be having them on in the big ass TV in my house, watching the breakdowns of guys who ain't even on the Seahawks. So it's fun stuff. Thank you, Sam, for joining us. Thank you guys for tuning into the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. We will catch you guys next time. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, Seahawks Man to Man. Follow me on Twitter at Mike Dugar. Follow Chris at CKid206. That's CKid, 2 Ds, 206. We'll catch you guys next time. We're out.